Big thanks to Diamond Select Toys for sending this one out. Check out links in the description down below to pick this figure up. Dragon Ball, Pokemon, Kaiju, and more. It's Steven's Toy Reviews. Hello there, collectors. It is Steven here, and welcome to my review of the Diamond Select Toys Gipsy Avenger from the movie Pacific Rim Uprising. So here we have a deluxe action figure of the star. Well, let's face it anyway. The Jaegers and Kaiju are the stars of Pacific Rim. Right. The star of Pacific Rim Uprising, Gipsy Avenger, and it is jam-packed with accessories, with all of the new merch that's coming out for the movie, and the movie receiving, well, not necessarily kaiju-sized reviews. Is this figure worth picking up? I gotta say, it looks really nice, so let's take a look to see whether or not it's worth adding into your collection. When it comes down to it, I think one of the things that all of the Diamond Select Toys Jaegers have would be the attention to detail. They really did a nice job with all of the fine lines on the different Jaegers, such as on Gipsy Avenger here, the numbers on the thighs and up on the chest, or we're going to have the finer panel linings or the weathering and the washes that are found on these figures are all very good. I do think some different kind of parts could be used, such as on the con pod, maybe some kind of translucent plastic or metallic paint could be used to really replicate that effect, but still at the end of the day, I think Gipsy here looks smashing. So what makes it look so good? Let's take a little bit of a closer look, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to start off at the head, where even though there isn't a metallic paint that's used, we still have a nice yellow paint that's used for the con pod that is relatively clean, that really does make it pop and make it look nice. We do have some finer red lines that are found all throughout Gipsy Avenger that really do look clean, aside from some parts where we can definitely see it received some battle damage. What kind of battle damage? I don't know, because Gipsy was only in 2 battles in the movie? Yeah. Anyway, that's not on Diamond. That's more so, hey, this is cool that we actually have damage here on the figure. Really cool to see. Anyway, we do have a nice neon coloration for the reactor on the chest. Looks great. Even though the paint really does clash with the overall aesthetic of Gipsy, it is contained within that crater for the chest. It doesn't bleed out and over. There's no paint slop there. And like I was mentioning before, we do have the individual small numbers clearly readable on the chest of Gipsy, even further on down on the thighs. We do have clear color differentiation on different areas of the torso, such as silver and the dark blue that are used. Some areas are probably going to be using decals, such as the red and white on the biceps and whatnot, but even still, it is going to look nice. Weathering effects are clear and present, such as on the thigh, where it does look like someone took some silver paint to it and gave it a once-over to make it look like Gipsy had some really hard battles, and I think this attention to detail is what really wins this figure some points. All in all, I do think Gipsy Avenger looks like it has gone through quite a few battles, and it has definitely earned its stripes. I think this is the most redeeming factor of Gipsy Avenger here. There is another one that I think is really close to being worth the money. We'll take a look at in just a few minutes. But overall, I do think that the figure looks fantastic, and fans who do like that attention to detail will be happy to pick this Gipsy up. So Gipsy looks really nice. That must mean it moves as well too, right? Well, yes and no. Yes and no. Well, here's the deal. The engineering is really great. Joints are awesome. But we got some issues. What do we have? Well, the head is attached into the neck on a ball joint, so this way we can really move Gipsy's head around. We can get it to look up and down a little bit, just a little bit. Side-to-side movement is pretty solid. Unfortunately, that chin is going to block some movement left and right, but that's okay. We get some serviceable movement there. We do have ball joints where the shoulders plug into the body, so you can move them up and down like so. Spin them around like a pinwheel if you would like. Move them forward a bit, back a bit. The shoulder pads are ball jointed, and if you need them to, for whatever reason, they can pop off. That helps to show the actual hinge that the bicep plugs into on the shoulder. So if for whatever reason you're pushing any of the joints in the shoulder past their limit, then the shoulder pads will pop off. So that's about as far outward as the arms can stretch, as you can see there. Now moving on down, we do have the bicep swivel, which is always needed on any sort of humanoid action figure, of course. We do have an elbow hinge, and then for the wrists, they are on swivels and hinges. Okay, and the cool thing is that the wrist guard is actually attached to the hand, not the forearm, so it makes a bit more sense engineering-wise, and they're also made of soft plastic, so they don't really get in the way of the articulation. They don't block the range of movement at all. So the arms, fantastic movement. The ab crunch is on a ball joint, so we can spin Gipsy around, all the way around if we want to. Forward and back movement, tilting from side to side is pretty good. Loose. Very loose, so do keep that in mind. And then we have the hips, which are dangerously loose. Knees are loose too, but we'll get to those in a second. So we do have swivels where they plug in. Then we do have hinges, so this way you can have Gipsy do the splits. And then there are swivels again where those little balls plug into the thighs. You see what I mean, how they're loose? So we can get Gipsy to move its legs around in all sorts of different directions, so that's pretty cool. For the knees, they are double hinge, so you can get that kind of range of movement out of them. And then for the ankles, we do have what look to be ball joints and swivel hinges, so where the ankle system plugs into the lower portion of the legs. That seems to be a ball joint. We have hinge movement this way, and then for the ankle rocker movement, we do have a swivel. So the main reason why I'm upset with the legs being as loose as they are, and the real reason why I want to drive that home is because there have been many a times when preparing for this review, I just put Gipsy up on the table, and then for whatever reason, I will leave it standing there, and then it'll just fall over. There have been a couple of times where other Gipsy Danger figures I have had up that were not necessarily as loose as this one, I know this is Avenger, but bear with me, just fell over at 4 a.m. So I'm kind of worried with this one here over time, what might happen. So what I would recommend is clear off some shelf space or get a support stand to hold Gipsy, whether or not it's going to be like at the crotch or something, or even just at the back like that or something. I don't know. Do whatever you must, but make sure you have a support for Gipsy Avenger here. But overall, at the end of the day, I think the engineering for Gipsy is pretty solid, and we can definitely get some movement for $25. I do think I'm satisfied. Okay, so the articulation, the engineering is pretty solid aside from the loosey-goosiness, but the accessories, we get plenty of them to make everyone happy, including myself. So, aside from the splayed hands, which come default in the box, we get fists. We get one chain sword for the left arm, alongside a plasma caster for the left arm. For the right arm, we get a gravity sling, and then both for the left and the right arms, we get the chainsaw. So yes, we have Ash Avenger, or Gypsy Williams, or another corny joke I can make because rest in peace, Ash vs. Evil Dead. But anyway, we get pretty much all of the weapons that Gypsy Avenger used in Pacific Rim Uprising. So taking a quick look at the fists here, these are easy to swap out just because they are swivel hinges, they are on pegs. You just pull the splayed hands off and then pop the fists on. They look about identical to the open hands, just closed up. So that's nothing to write home about. Now, for swapping out the different accessories, all you have to do is pull them at the forearm, so this way they pop out at the elbow on that little peg there, and then you just push them in. Very easy to do. The one issue that I have, for whatever reason, is the right chainsaw forearm part is not wanting to sit in correctly for me. I don't know why. Maybe there's some extra plastic there. But anyway, let's take a closer look at them. We'll go ahead and we'll take a look at the gravity sling first, and I do have to say that this was kind of a risky one on Diamond Select's part here. Why is that? Well, aside from the fact that they did a really nice job with the way that the forearm opens up and we can see the inner working mechanics, the tip of the gravity sling where we can see Gypsy's fingers and all that fun open space, there's no excess mold in there. There's no mold flash, no excessive plastic, anything like that. So it's nice and clean, and I'm really surprised that at $25 they were able to prevent any sort of quality control issues, at least on mine, from being present there. So they did a really rock solid job there. Now, moving on over to the other arm, the left arm, where we're going to have the plasma caster, which is kind of the opposite of the gravity sling because we really don't have that much of an open space for the forearm. Yeah, we can see the inner workings of the turbine there, which, yeah, there is some detailing. We kind of lose that in the grayish silver plastic, which at the price point, that's okay. But, it's kind of boring compared to Gipsy Avenger's plasma caster, but you know what? It's there, and again, that's more so on the design team's fault than it would be on Diamond Select Toys. So yes, it is cool that they included the plasma caster. It's very nice to see here. Wish there would be some sort of blast effect, but that's what extra effect parts from other companies would be for. Right. So plasma caster looks nice, gets the job done, very accurate to the movie. Now, also on that left arm, we are going to have the chain sword, which is actually pretty pokey. The only thing that I would say to be careful of with this is that since it is long and it is rather thin plastic, make sure that you are not going to be putting any pressure on that blade in case it should snap for whatever reason. You don't want to do that. Something of note, though, there is going to be absolutely no articulation for the fist, so don't even try moving that around, and unfortunately, you can't swap that out for a splayed hand if you would want to. The attention to detail is about the same as it's going to be for the normal forearm part. Now we do have the chainsaw part for both the left and the right arm, and they're pretty much going to be identical. The only complaint that I would have here, which wouldn't be a complaint as much as it would be a preference, is I would like to see a translucent orange chainsaw part, which at $25 I don't think would have been reasonable just because, well, then we have to add more plastic into the mix, which then would have to increase the cost and more paint and etc. etc. So, you know what? That is just personal preference. These silver blades are just fine enough. Right. Overall, I think they did a really solid job of recreating that effect of a chainsaw. There's nothing to really be upset about here. I think they did a very, very good job. So if you're looking to have a kaiju killer up on your shelf, Gipsy Avenger here will do a very, very nice job of that. Now, to round out the review, we're going to have a nice size comparison with Saber Athena and Bracer Phoenix. So this way you have an idea of how much space all three will take up on your shelf. And as you can see, unfortunately, they are very big and they may not scale too well with some of the other Pacific Rim figures that you have. So do keep this in mind when you are building your new Pacific Rim display area. So buy now, skip, or wait for a deal. Generally speaking, I think Gipsy looks great and literally comes with every single weapon it uses in the movie. Aside from the elbow rocket or the backpack booster rockets that it uses, which, I mean, let's be honest here, there's no way that they could do that. The only downfall is that it has some very loose joints, which unfortunately, let's just say, get an extra stand to help support this figure, whether or not it's going to be a one-off stand from another figure or you have to buy a pack and you get a couple of them. Overall, for $25, this is a very nice package, and some of the flaws that it has, I do think, can be outweighed by a lot of the positives that it has. So that's not me holding a few blows back, that's me factoring it in. $25, we get a nice big figure with a whole bunch of accessories that looks really solid. If you're thinking about maybe getting a Gipsy Avenger figure to maybe hold yourself over for a little while until maybe you want to dip your toes somewhere else, or if you want to get the one that is going to pretty much be your definitive Gipsy Avenger action figure because you literally do not need to buy anything else to get all of the parts that you need, this is the one to get. Well, folks, that's the end of this review. Thanks for watching, and be sure to follow me on social media to catch more behind-the-scenes shenanigans and updates. The end card should be popping up now with more hand-selected STR goodness for you to watch, so check out some of those videos. Be sure to check the description, too, to see where you can buy this figure or others like it, and some cool links, like the credits for this video, and other ways you can help out the channel. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch ya in the next video.